I'm really excited to introduce our next presenter. We were talking about, I mentioned this earlier, what were the gaps in the presentation? There's so many topics, and we didn't really have anything targeted specific to the coach around wellness and mental health and so forth. So right away popped into my head, Jaycee, this is a great opportunity. So humor me. Janelle Chase Mayers, also known as Jaycee, is a fourth-year PhD student in marriage and family therapy, creative systemic studies. She is currently a lecturer at the University of West Indies in the Faculty of Social Sciences, specifically assigned to the MS counseling program with the emphasis on teaching group counseling to second-year master level students. She is also the owner and head coach at CrossFit 246, a wellness performance center for general fitness and sports performance for athletes and teams. Janelle is on a quest to share and talk openly about mental health and leadership to Barbados and the larger Caribbean, impacting opportunities for learning and creating shifts in thinking about mental illness. We have invited Jaycee here today to talk with us about the well-being of the coach. Please welcome Jaycee Mayers.
Thank you so much, Wayne. I was just listening to Dr. Norris and I was saying, did he look into my presentation before? I was getting excited as he shared and also allowed me to hear some of the things that were shared before. And when you asked me to do this, I said yes right away, but more importantly, I say yes because in relation to what Dr. Norris was talking about, the fact that we don't have practical applications or training perspectives for the people who are ultimately responsible for our athletes. And yet, like he said, we take our most precious commodity and give it to people who may not necessarily know that they need to be taking care of themselves first and foremost before they can even give to others. So I'll start my slide now. And I got this done last time. I'm going to share my screen. And can we see this here?
It's coming up now.
Okay, good.
There you go.
All right. So I wanted to talk about how we can create success through the mental well-being of ourselves as coaches. I always start with this because I've had a very personal experience that allowed me to realize that if I didn't take care of who I was as an individual, I was not going to be able to, one, be able to take care of my athletes. And in another hat that I wear, I'm a mental health consultant, and I've been doing this for about 15 to 16 years. And realize that if I don't deal with the things that are important to me, my clients and my athletes don't get the best me. So over the past couple of years, I've actually created something called Re-Engineering You. And this is basically for us to stop for a minute and look at where we are, give ourselves an audit, and then look at how we actually want to re-engineer ourselves to be better coaches, to be better husbands, to be better wives, better participants, and actually begin to engage in wellness for self. Right? So mental well-being, and there's this book called Real is Better Than Perfect by Dorothy Satin, and she really shares on how we can actually create self-healing for ourselves in order to give other people. And this quote says, it's an illusion to think that you're given anything really authentic to others if you're not being true to yourself. Self-care is where loving kindness must start to be authentic. And when we're thinking about engaging with athletes and we're thinking about actually being able to engage them on a level of being able to be optimal performers, we have to think about, are we being optimal performers for self? Do we take the time and opportunity to learn for us, to learn how to regulate? And I was smiling from ear to ear, Dr. Stephen, when you were talking about emotional literacy and emotional regulation, because that's one of the key things that I talk about when we're re-engineering ourselves. If we're incapable of being able to share our emotions and our feelings with our athletes, where will they learn to actually do that effectively? how would they begin to actually create stress loops and get out of stress loops that they can actually be functional within their own personal space? So what's your yearly training plan? All of us know this on this call, YTPs. And we have made a decision that we are going to put out YTPs for our athletes. But have we really taken the time to do a YTP for ourselves? And a vision without the application or a vision without the mission statement is not going to work. It's not going to be effective, right? And my thing about being effective is our ability to try and make a decision to do that what we're trying to do with our own personal athletes. So what's your yearly training plan? So this is a familiar slide. We've all seen it, perhaps a little bit too much, right? But in a year, do athletes actually grow and develop wholeheartedly? And that question I always ask coaches, because I want us to think about how do we actually grow wholeheartedly in our own experience as coaches. A novice coach, and let's say a novice coach may be somebody who has just finished school, didn't have much practice in terms of internship, didn't have a lot of practice in terms of having someone who's a mentor or personal coach for them. We'll see this particular old plan and just get to going, starting writing, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to actually implement this, and put some things in there that may be a bit too much. Now, I'm assuming that on this call, a lot of us have had a lot of practice in actually dealing with athletes and actually having to deal with our own personal issues. And I love the way how we frame personal versus professional as a way to actually move forward. But I also add another layer where I talk about we are human first before our profession. And that humanness allows us to take the activities that we've done before and build on them for efficacy. All right, so start with your end in mind. What's your season review? We've had 4 months of unsafe information that the brain is trying to process with our fight or flight. And I often ask people, like, what are you thinking about what's going to happen when this is over? And it's not business as normal, it's business as different. And we have to think about what's our season review in the past 3 months. How have we actually been able to mobilize, adapt, adjust to the current situation? And what's our end in mind in actually being able to be effective coaches when, not if, but when we are allowed to return to play, but just in a different way? So to you, I say, let's input our peak events. And when I was designing the whole concept of the re-engineering you, these 6 parts stood out to me. Our mental, our physical, our spiritual, our community/network, our personal development, and shared experience. And so if we don't have that vision and actually apply the vision statement to all the things that we're doing, we're actually behind the 8 ball. And as coaches, I don't think we spend a lot of time building these peak events personally, right? We spend a lot more time on that YTP. We lose a lot of sleep on our athletes. And I was talking to Frank yesterday about this. I think one of the things is, especially high performance coaches, whether it's from the psychological perspective or the coach who's actually doing the actual sport, a lot of our athletes wish we actually took more time off and better care of ourselves because they actually want us through all the peak events of their life. However, and if you go back and you look at some stats, there's some coaches that end up with heart trouble, right? Stroke, poor nutrition, diabetes, high cholesterol, because we actually haven't taken some time to actually take care of us, right? So this is the blocks that we're going to start with. Mental. So I was smiling from ear to ear as I was listening to Dr. Norris's presentation. And for me, mental is big. Mental health is one of these things that I am a big advocate for because I think we've kind of muddled the concepts of mental illness versus mental health. And we actually haven't taken time to teach people what true mental health is. Yes, the World Health Organization has a definition, but the definition doesn't actually allow people to break down into activities that they could potentially do to make themselves better. So for me, one of the things that I did with re-engineering is looking at, can we identify what our cognitive processes and brain health is, the way in which we speak our emotions, because if you come from cultures where people do not have an emotional literacy bank, it's very hard for them to actually share how they're feeling. And if you have a difficulty sharing how you feel, you're actually going to have a much harder time emotionally regulating. And as coaches, the hardest thing is to manage our emotions, but it's also one of the most acceptable and freeing experiences. So you learn, and your athletes also learn, that there is a place and there is a way to actually get this done. Mental health for me also means our ability to connect our thoughts and emotion within self. So I call that the intrapersonal perspective, and then connectivity to thoughts and emotions in relation to others. How are we able to share our thoughts and emotions with other people? Every coach needs to have a process. And I say needs because it's a necessity of life, right? Our ability to take care of our mental health will also allow us to actually be more effective in our jobs and roles as coaches. Physical. Now, as Wayne said, I own a gym. I've been playing sports for a very long time, 30 plus years. And one of the things that we as coaches have a really hard time is focusing on ourselves in relation to physical activity. And for me, physical activity is just not playing a sport, but it's our ability to raise our nervous systems in safe ways, but also for us to also move in safe spaces. Then our body image and performance. And that's really key in terms of how we're actually going to be effective in our mental well-being for our athletes. How do we take the time to speak to ourselves in the mirror? And I always ask people that question. You know, when you wake up in the morning and you see yourself, what is it that you say to yourself, right? How do you actually attune to yourself? And then nutrition and performance. Food is fuel for performance. So if your brain, your stomach doesn't get the correct food, and everybody knows this, right? You won't actually be able to perform at your best. Have you actually planned for this? Is this in your YTP? Spirituality. And as coaches, the one thing that we perhaps do well without even recognizing it is that we connect to others, right? Part of the task of connecting with others is also understanding how you connect to self. And for me, when I'm talking about a YTP for coaches, we look at meditations and affirmations, and what we say to ourselves becomes very important. But more importantly, and I'll spend some time on the body healing and awareness, is especially with this pandemic, we have literally all been affected by trauma. The coaches, the parents, the athletes, all of us are going through this together. And often we take less time to deal with our trauma as coaches, and we kind of sweep that underneath the rug because, you know, we have to take care of other people, but then it actually manifests in our physical nature. Right? And so our body healing and awareness has to be one of the key areas in which we actually become spiritually attuned with ourselves. And how we decide to take care of our spirituality becomes a really key component in exercising the re-engineering process of you as a coach. Community. Tribe building. Know who your tribe is. So I consider Wayne to be one of my tribe members. And I got that necessarily through one of the things that I did was I networked for 3 years extensively in the sporting world. And one of the reasons why I did that was because I wanted to put myself in a position that I could have that accountability community. And when you're beginning to talk about your mental well-being, who is there for you? Who's your sounding board? Who's your vent partner? Who's your idea and vision building partner? Because those things are going to be important for you to be able to be successful as an individual and a human being. And then be able to pass on those skills to your charges, cultivating wholehearted experiences. To be present is to be seen and heard. And often we're so busy trying to do and create that we forget that those are necessities for our own experiences. We don't only want to be seen and heard because our charges or our athletes are desirous of that, but because they actually recognize that we care and we can actually create more experiences of them to learn how to care. Our personal growth. And for me, to be authentic is one of the most freeing experiences, along with our ability to develop our specific goals, as well as us to share. And I'll stay a little bit here on this because what I've found in my journey as being a coach is that we don't share ideas enough to help us grow. We take ideas, we move with those ideas, but we are often tight-lipped about the things that we're doing for fear of helping other people be more successful. But what I've learned along the way is that your ability to be authentic is the only thing that allows your goal to move past a certain point. And if we get in the habit of sharing the ideas and the visions with other people, how excited we would actually be and how renewed we would actually be in actually executing our tasks. Re-engineering us as coaches for me is one of the key components of understanding how our personal growth can help our mental health. And once we're not growing, we are going to be stuck in a state. And that state is, most of the time, that state is going to be in unhappiness. That state is going to be in resentment. That state is going to be in uneasiness. Because, the last time I checked, all of us as coaches want the best for our athletes, and all of us are coaches want to be able to say that we have athletes that perform at the elite level. Wellness. Tell your story often. So I learned that a long time ago, that if you don't share who you are, people will say what they say, they will invent you, and they will always get it wrong. And it's important as we share our stories in our journey to being successful coaches, that we can engage in a way of actually helping people with the things that we say. And that moves me to the shared experiences. Because as coaches, we all have similar experiences that perhaps we have never told anybody. And I was listening to Dr. Norris that said, well, we could be miles apart, but there's similar things that he's saying that I completely agree with, that I experienced all the way over in Barbados. So our shared experiences is one of the key things in our wellness. And then integrated systems. We have so many systems that we have not even looked to pull together, that we need to start as coaches when we put that into our YTP. Who's doing what? Where in your body is doing what? That you can be aware that that's how you are actually operating in wellness. Guys, part of it for me is how we can begin consistently creating success. Success comes with a timeline, because time, stated before, is one of the things that you can't get back. So your ability to put it into a YTP allows you to actually begin thinking about areas that you want to develop within yourself. And my key to you, especially in building success of mental well-being, is to create a 3-month timeline. We all know the research behind it and why doing something for six weeks to 12 weeks becomes important. But it's not going to become important if you don't create a practical application for it. Then your action line. Choose that one area of development. What's that area that you need to work on? And the timeline, create a self-care plan. I always keep self-care plans around. I write them everywhere. I'll show you guys. In relation to those areas, and join an accountability community. When Frank said there were 1,000 people that signed in, it meant that 1,000 people that joined, there were 1,000 people that were committed to their development. And we often say things to other people like, I feel so alone in my profession. There are people out there that want to reach out and help you become the best you. But we have to reach out and understanding that we're actually re-engineering our perspective, and we actually need to have our company. As I close, Again, this comes from real is better than perfect. And we've been bamboozled into believing that it's selfish to take care of our own needs, when in fact, that's where all authentic caring begins. For many of us who grew up with the role models of moms who lived only to meet the kids' needs, and dads who were workaholics who never took time for themselves, selfish must be reframed to self-care. And that is my time.
Jaycee, wonderful. Such an amazing presentation. So passionate. Bamboozled. Bamboozled. That's not a Bayesian term, is it?
No, well, it's not.
We've heard it before, but I thought I'd slip that in.
Yes.
Jaycee, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Awesome
so much.
presentation. And let's catch up soon.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Bye.
Coaches.
Hey,
Unbelievable.
Frank.
Yeah,
Wrap.
yeah, that's a wrap.
Been awesome. I want to thank you guys, Wayne and Frank. Like when I pitched you that that idea 7 weeks ago, like you jump on board, never hesitated. Although it was only the three of us without a team behind the marketing promotion, we just did it. And based on the comments we're getting in the chat, and my messaging also is blowing up. Like it seems like people appreciated it, and it seems like we'll have to do it again, guys.
It seems like it, right? I just wanted to jump in here quickly. First, I want to thank Jaycee for her presentation. I mean, it was insightful. It's at the end of a long day. And I mean, somebody who can talk about the mental well-being of coaches, it's so important. Because, and even it's somewhat of a thread throughout the day, right? I started and said, like, people helpers need help too. And that's part of it, right? Take care of yourself, take care of your athletes, and sometimes do as much planning for ourselves as we do for our athletes. And I know if that's something you guys took away from that, but I thought that was insightful.
Wayne, some comments?
Yeah, I'm just blown away by the variety of topics, the compelling, passionate nature of our speakers, and the coaches that attended here. And Jaycee touched on it too. You know, over 1,000 people registered for this event and attended throughout different parts of the day. When we started this, we did not expect to have a very large number of people on here for 6 straight hours. Yeah. And we saw messages about people that just didn't leave.
They want to go pee, right?
Yeah, I think that just speaks volumes. That's, you know, it's been such a fantastic day. And thanks to Andre and Dr. Frank for collaborating on this great event. And sounds like there could be another one in the future. So excellent work, guys.
And I want to make sure we acknowledge once again, Sport for Life. We acknowledge Jeff Kushel and Crush Sport also for accepting to help us out throughout this journey. So they never hesitated and got behind us, which is amazing. And to Frank also for a long day of work behind the scenes, making sure that the technology works. Either here on Zoom or now also on YouTube on our live streaming. And thanks, Wayne, also for doing your share of moderating, allowing me to eat a little bit throughout the course of the day. That was well appreciated as well. So again, like to everyone, thanks again. Hopefully return to sport happens sooner than later for all of you, wherever you are on the planet. And hopefully we're back on the field of play as soon as possible. So on behalf of the three of us, thanks for joining in today. Thanks for all those speakers. I see some of them are still listening and part of it, so that's kind of awesome as well. And we'll be talking soon, I'm sure.
And that last comment speaks volumes. Our speakers are hanging around listening to each other. That's amazing. Such collaboration. Thanks to all of you.
Thanks to everyone. And I mean, we had Rick Charlesworth, Jeff Crushell, Dr. Norris for the entire day. It's crazy when you think about it. And I think it's a testament to the commitment. They're willing to learn, and to everyone here who attended until the end. And we're still running pretty high. So that's pretty good. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, André, for leading this.
Thank you, everyone.